Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Business Spotlight, the podcast where we shine a light on the incredible entrepreneurs and business owners in our community. I'm your host, Craig Whipperman with Music City Action Coach, and today we're excited to introduce to you someone who is blazing a trail in the recycling industry here in Nashville. Our guest today is Steve Napoli, founder of TERRA, the Electronics Reuse and Recycling Alliance. We'll dive into Steve's background, explore the challenges he's faced and the successes he's enjoyed. Whether you're a fellow entrepreneur, an aspiring business owner, or someone who simply likes to support local businesses, this conversation is sure to inspire and inform. So without further ado, let's welcome Steve to the podcast. Steve, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, Craig. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, man, thanks for being a guest. So tell us a little bit about your history and how you ended up founding TERRA.
Well, the details of my life are quite inconsequential. Sorry, I'm a movie guy, so I had to drop that. I've been here in the national market for a little over 30 years. I actually came here on my 18th birthday. My father was the director of advertising for Bridgestone Firestone Tires, and they moved their world headquarters from Akron to Nashville in the senior year of high school. So I ended up coming here and ended up staying. So I've kind of built my career here, and having had a legacy in advertising and marketing, that's kind of where I started my career. And I spent a good portion of that, in sales, in marketing, working for advertising agencies, building brands. And, I've been doing that in multiple industries and multiple different size companies and business to business, business to consumer, government capacities. So I had a pretty wide experience in sales and marketing. And it just happened to be one day I was having lunch with a friend former colleague that I worked with at one of my positions. And he was talking about his new job. He was the interim CEO of an electronics recycling business here in Nashville. And we just got to chatting it up. And he was talking about how Pandora's box was about to open up for him. They're just on the verge of earning the certification called R2. And I didn't know anything about it, so we just kind of spent the lunch talking. And it just intrigued me because I've always been a bit of an electronics geek myself. I've been a space nerd since I was little. I wanted to be Neil Armstrong when I was a kid. So it's just one of those things that kind of sat in the back of my brain. And a few months later, we were out having lunch again, and I asked him. I said, how did that certification? How is that affecting your business? And just kind of got stone faced and was disappointed, saying, it just everywhere we go, we have to explain to people what it means and why it's important. And so my sales and marketing brain, kind of instantly turned on. I was like, okay, well, it sounds like the industry that you're in has a sales and marketing problem. So that kind of just stuck with me, and I was kind of looking to do something. I'd been, worked for people my whole career, never been an entrepreneur yet, and I was looking at starting my own business, maybe potentially my own marketing firm. And that just kept sticking in the back of my brain. So I just started picking up the phone and calling other CEOs and presidents of electronics companies across the country and asking them, about their business, and really focusing on these people that were certified to this R2 standard. And I heard a lot of the same thing, which was we're very proud to have earned it. It's very meaningful to the industry and to our customers, but we are ending up having to spend a lot of time explaining why it matters. So with that, I just kind of picked up the torch and created an organization, TERRA, to get out into the marketplace and start evangelizing for these folks and explaining to the market why certification does matter. Why in the electronics industry you should be looking for people that, are on the up and up, which seems to be, kind of almost obvious, but wasn't. So that's where it all started. And, a lot of learnings over the last 5 years. We started this in April of 2019, right before the pandemic. And, a lot of, I've learned a lot over the course of this. My original kind of vision of being just a simple marketing co-op that we would be getting out into the marketplace and explaining why certification matters and talking about the good deeds that these small businesses and small entrepreneurs are doing that aren't being talked about, because electronics recycling always gets left behind. It's always kind of the redheaded stepchild behind paper and glass and other kind of recyclables. So, getting out there and promoting it as, as important as it is, and getting it, at the top of the headlines, and getting these folks that are doing great work, shining the sunlight on them was what we were about. And we've been pleasantly surprised that it's kind of gotten us into some other areas as well.
Yeah, so that is awesome. The um, evangelizing for the benefit, of the recyclers that have qualified or at least been certified, I guess, to
Hmm.
this R2 standard.
And
Um,
eStewards, it was a sister certification that we ended almost immediately adopted as well. Again, I got into this industry knowing nothing about it. So after launching, there's a big article that came out in the Tennessean about this new endeavor,
hmm.
which we were real excited about. And then the folks at eStewards called us up and said, "Hey, why can't we be part of it?" And I was like, "Well, um, I guess you can." And we ended up doing it. And actually, it was the same certification that kind of split in two. They had a disagreement over politics, but they both have very rigorous standards to the way this material is handled. So we recognize both certifications.
Oh, that's interesting. So you're saying that a certification similar to R2 heard what you were doing and asked, can you help us market the benefits we provide as well?"
Yes.
Oh, that's pretty cool. So, how many of your members are certified to both?
Very small amount.
Hmm.
Actually, I was just having a conversation with a new member that joined us in the last week that is getting dual certified. That will make just four of our members that are. We've got
Hmm.
120 facilities in 12 countries that are part of our group, and only of that, then I guess it will be six facilities total are dual certified.
Hmm. And so, okay, so give folks a general understanding of R2 certification and this other certification that you're talking of. What
Sure.
goes into it?
So this was born out of, the FDA was kind of barking at the door of the electronics recyclers, saying either you're going to self-regulate or we're going to regulate it for you. So they came to the conclusion that they best self-regulate and started coming up with some standards to really affect a couple of different areas. One is, first and foremost, employee health and safety.
Mhm.
What most people don't realize is that electronics is kind of nasty. 70% of the toxins that are entering our waste stream, 70% are coming from electronics. And it's
Wow.
only 2% of our waste stream. So you can imagine they're pretty highly contaminated. So you got to make sure that the people are disassembling and refurbishing these devices and getting them ready for end of life processing, are protected. So that's first and foremost. Second, it's, you know, here in the West, here in the United States, we're a fluent country. We don't want to be simply just dumping our problems on the shores of people that can't handle them. We could all day, but package up, and for many years, and still today, this does happen, where we'll package up our plastics and our things that have little value left in them, and send them to foreign shores as trash. And there's no way that they can handle that. So a lot of that gets ended up, you know, negatively impacting human health in faraway countries. It has negative impacts on our health here in the United States. So it's about how you process and handle and downstream materials properly. Another big component of the certification. So human health and safety, you know, being mindful of other communities, and that's kind of where the split happened between eStewards and R2 was to the extent that offshoring materials was going to be inspected and regulated. The eastwards folks were a little bit more stringent about that. When the two diverged about 15 years ago,
Hmm.
but now they've kind of come closer together. So
Interesting.
that was important, and some employee your staff and the way you're downstreaming things are really kind of the core of it. And then the third is just best practices and how you're handling materials, how you're refurbishing devices, to what level, to what quality. So you're not just simply putting a sticker on a device that just came in your door that hasn't been inspected, that hasn't had a hard drive tested, operating systems reinstalled, and making sure that the product that the industry is putting out is of high quality.
Okay, cool. So, the product that the industry is putting out for reuse, I guess is what you're saying, right?
Yes.
I see. Okay. Yeah. So I forgot. So there's actually yeah. So there's the disassembly of anything that's not going to be reused, um, and then
That's
proper.
why we're reuse first. That's why we're the reuse and recycling, is that reuse is the most sustainable way to recycle something, is to put it back into use. So,
Mm.
a big portion of what the industry is focused on and dedicated to is parts harvesting, fixing broken material, and getting it up to quality so they can be resold, reprocessed back into the industry for replacement parts or used devices. So that's key. And then the
Hmm.
second thing is when something has reached the end of life, when people are done with it, that the components are recycled responsibly so they don't end up in the landfill contaminating our food and water. And then also a loss to our circular economy of valuable materials. I mean, there's gold, there's platinum, palladium, stainless steel, copper. There's a lot of good material in our electronic waste that we need to be recovering, not just simply throwing away.
Right. What percentage do you think of the material that comes into your conglomerate's hands is actually disposed of
Very little.
versus recycled or reused?
To a certified recycling facility, about 98% of the material that's coming out is coming back to be reused in some fashion. Again, whether straight reuse or it's been recycled and turned into another product. Very little of it's turned to trash.
Wow.
So that's why it's important to use people that are certified.
Yeah.
So, but there's very little data on. The UN puts out a report every 2 years. It's called well, the name's escaping me right now. The Global E-Waste Monitor, and they talk about how much e-waste they anticipate is being generated, and there's some good numbers in there, and some probably numbers I think they're probably are a little sketchier. But they look at just last year they thought and estimated that a weight the equivalent of the Great Wall of China was thrown away in terms of electronic waste. I mean that's enormous, and maybe 15% of that was recycled, and out of that 15% only a portion of it was done by people who are certified. So I mean
Hmm.
this is a massive problem, and our members are doing their level best to keep up with it, but it's really and one of the things that we decided to do while we created Terra was in talking about the certification matters. You got to start educating the marketplace as to why people should care about what they're doing with their devices, because again, as I mentioned, 2% of the waste stream, 70% of the toxins, full of good material that is limited resources that we need to fuel our economy, and then other material that's going to poison us if we're not careful. So making sure that we effectively manage our electronics is
Hmm.
really critical to our future.
Right. So you have 120 locations that are part of your, what would you call them? Collective?
We just call it the alliance or the network.
Alliance, I'm sorry. Yeah. So do those folks are they paying a fee to be a part of the alliance?
Yes. So we are a for-profit entity, but we
Hmm.
operate like an association. So as you can see, kind of like on this sign behind me, we have our certified members, which are the people that e-stewards or R2 certified that process material. Allied vendors and other supporters that are companies that provide product and service to a certified recycler, like a logistics company or a insurance company or something like that. And then what we're really focused on long term is bringing in these sustainers. And those are the companies that utilize the services, that create and generate e-waste. That's people like you and me. That's companies like Bridgestone Firestone and whom all organizations. We wouldn't be doing this podcast here if it wasn't for electronics. So this touches everybody, and we just want to make sure that the resources are out there to effectively collect and reuse and recycle these materials in the best way possible. And the reason you need scale is that the problem with kind of the big problem behind doing this efficiently and effectively is logistics. You've
Mm-hmm.
got to get material that potentially is at end of life and has little value to somewhere that can be processed, which is going to cost money for as little as possible. Because if there is no profit model, if there's no profit margin in recovering this equipment, no one's going to recover it, and it's going to end
Right,
up straight in our trash.
right, right. If there's, it certainly helps if there's financial incentive for people
Yes.
to be obviously following the other natural instincts, right? Their motivations. But the alliance members of the alliance pay a fee, and then you talked about sustainers. Do you see how do you so sustainers of the creators of the waste?
I'll give you an example of those.
Okay.
So let me give you a quick example. So this past winter, not this winter, we're looking to do this again in 2025, 26. We did a beta test project with Walmart. 115 stores in Tennessee, northern Georgia, northern Alabama, eastern North Carolina, should be western North Carolina, where we were recycling Christmas lights. You know, Walmart sells a good amount of holiday lighting and other and other material. So in their stores at the front end, you could walk in, you could drop off the Christmas lights that were broken when you plugged them in this year, they didn't work, and we recycled them. Um, you know, helping them provide a service to their customers, helping them make sure that the material that they're selling is coming back and being put back into the circular economy. That's an example of like a sustainer. Would be this this program that we're doing here that's behind me with devices for autism. Uh, you know, we are collecting high quality laptops and tablets, getting them into the hands of a certified recycler here in Nashville. They're refurbishing the devices. That's providing employment opportunities for people that are on the autism spectrum. And
Mhm.
then, those materials then are getting back out for resale into the marketplace. So it's connecting with, you know, manufacturers, OEMs, with companies and businesses that, are buying and using and selling, e-waste or creating it themselves or future e-waste, and making sure that there is a way for that material to come back into the economy and to give their customers a way to recycle their product.
Yeah, so that's pretty cool. So Walmart is a retailer. They
Hmm.
are selling equipment, but then there are manufacturers like, you name it, Dell, whoever, HP, any one of the electronics, OEMs. Are you targeting them as well?
Yeah, and a lot of them, thankfully have their own programs, especially as you
Yeah,
look at it, the higher end devices.
right.
There is a demand for laptops, there's a demand for tablets, there's a demand for phones, but because they can be brought back and refurbished and resold, usually at a pretty good profit. But
Hmm.
there are a lot of things that are not. I mean, one of our sustainer members is this company called Avid. They make headsets. You're not going to find this in Walmart to buy it or at Best Buy, but your kid might have it. You get sold to schools and students use them. You'll find the smaller versions of these at hotels. When you go to the gym and you ask for headsets so you can plug into hear the TV while you're working out, or if you're on an airplane and they hand you a headset on an overseas flight, it's coming from a company like Avid.
Hmm.
So it's they're thin little wires, a little tiny earphone, not a whole lot of resale value on that, but there's copper, there is stainless steel, there are magnets in there, all
Hmm.
material that can be reused and recovered. So that we work with them on helping them with their business to business customers, able to send into our network, material from all over the United States and Canada.
Right, right. And so those are examples of manufacturers. How about like big corporate users who may not be manufacturing electronics, but are big users of electronics? I can think of
That's that's kind of where we see the future.
mm,
Um, I mean, I use Bridgestone because they're local, but I
mm,
mean, what they got 3, 4, 5,000 employees here, probably in the Nashville area.
mm,
Um, every once in one of those has got a computer. They've got people that are working from home all over the place. They've got facilities and plants that have motors running, day and night. I mean, it's the electronic footprint that these large organizations have is massive. But when they start thinking about their ESG goals, they're thinking
mm,
about their product and the impact of their product. Well, they should be, but they really need to take a kind of a totality of, yeah, we're making tires and we're selling tires, but all of our employees, everything that's part of our logistics chain, our stores, all has a huge electronics footprint, and that needs to be included into their thinking when they're talking about how they communicate, the way they're handling their sustainability goals in a holistic way,
mm,
to make sure that electronics and electronic waste is part of that, spreadsheet that they're putting out to their stakeholders every year.
Right, right. And so you got 120 in your alliance. How does that, are there other alliances in the industry, or are you kind of like the only one doing this?
We're kind of the only one doing that. So globally, there's only about 1,400 facilities that have even earned this certification. So we've got about 10% of them.
Hmm.
It's our goal, and like anything else, there are good actors, there are bad actors. There are people that skirt the rules. There are people that have the certification but are doing things behind the scenes. That happens. So what we're looking to do is build, kind of the best of the best, the cream of the crop group that can represent everybody, that can kind of take over the lion's share, and then kind of educate our industry from within and kind of get rid of those bad actors by kind of exposing them from what they do. But that's long term. But for the
Mhm.
today is, we want to take, get those really good actors, those top 20%, because we're still growing on it from a membership standpoint, and really getting out there and telling that story and bringing new people to the conversation. And once we
Right,
start bringing in those sustainers, those big corporate members, that's going to have an influence on other corporate members, and it's just going to be kind of a snowball effect.
right. And so would you separate users like you Bridgestone from your sustainers, or are they kind of in the same group?
Well, they would be in the same group.
Okay,
It's organizations that again, whether you manufacture the device or whether you're user of a device, are committed to making sure that when you're done with it, that it's managed in a responsible way.
right, right. And so when you like when you worked with Walmart or with Avid, are you kind of like the point man working with them and then garnering support from alliance members, or how does that relationship work?
It depends on the situation. So with Avid, it's a mail-in program. So we have the mail-in program. I've been saying the words "done with it" over and over again. It's because our program is called "Done with It" at donewithit.org.
Hmm.
And that's where we've got 25 of our members in the US and Canada are part of that. They each have kind of like an exclusive territory. As a for instance, we have like 4 or 5 members in Arizona, in the Phoenix area, but only one of them is the company that gets the mail in. They have an exclusive territory over that, just to make things simple and convenient and give people a reason to get involved, to have some exclusivity.
Hmm.
So we have 25 locations. So that means when we're sending something, again, I talked about early on shrinking logistics. If you're sending something from Nashville to Washington State every day, that makes no sense. So
Right.
if you got somebody in Washington, send it to somebody in Washington. So we're doing that. So we're helping them collect this material and get it to the places that it can be recycled, efficiently. So that's
Mhm.
one of the reasons they come to us, is to get that done. That's pretty much automated. So that just kind of happens. A customer goes to the site, they download a shipping label, they send it off. It's kind of hands free. It's more of a
Right.
corporate relationship that we have with them.
I see. So
When we did
that's
the Walmart program, then we had people, because we had regional Walmart facilities kind of handling incoming material. We wanted to connect them directly with our local member that could coordinate the logistics.
mhm.
So we're at the top level, but the operational component is done at the local level.
Okay. And the operational level by people working for you or people in the alliance?
People in the alliance.
Okay, gotcha. Um, okay, cool. So there's you've got the alliance part, and those folks are all benefiting from the work you do in promoting, the benefits of recycling and recruiting the likes of Avid or Walmart to participate in and be good stewards of the environment, obviously.
Right.
And then you've got the users, the sustainers who are also probably paying a fee of some sorts for
Hmm.
you to help manage their or set up their system of recycling. Is that right?
Yes. Hmm.
Okay, great.
So we kind of
Um,
provide, done with it is kind of that brand engagement point for
mm,
us to get involved with either consumers or companies to get access to the network and start creating their own. We want people to create their own recycling programs and have it be
right,
powered by Done with It.
right. And so, just out of curiosity, how many on your team? How many employees do you have on your team?
Well, paid staff is just two of us, me and my partner Clarence.
Oh,
And then,
wow.
we outsource some of our marketing, and then, kind of our back office operations and that sort of thing. So, we're still a growing company. We're pretty small.
Mhm.
We're looking at, they spent the first several years testing and figuring out kind of what works and what our messaging is, building the network and building some trust within the industry, because that's taken some time, and that should take time because you know, these are independent entrepreneurs, most of them, that have their operations are maybe 50 people, 70 people strong. So, they're very careful with their money and who they trust. So the fact that they have done that shows us a lot. I think says a lot about what we've been able to accomplish in these last couple of years. So we have a nice foundation of we have the network in place, we got the partners ready. It's now getting out there, finding those sustainers, finding those companies and those individuals that are ready to take the next step and start demonstrating to the world and to their shareholders and stakeholders that they're doing the right thing.
Right, right. And so is that where the push will be in 2025? Is it on us?
Yes.
Okay. And what's that sales process, if you don't mind me asking, what's the sales process look like?
Well, it's a little bit tricky, and it's a little slow depending on the size of the company. It's great when I talk with the folks at Avid. I had a conversation with the CEO. They're a small business, about 80 people. That deal was done in 3 days. You talk with Walmart, it took 2 years.
I'm sure. I'm surprised you got it done in 2 years.
Yeah. So, and we were still frustrated by the process, and still am today frustrated by the process. So, yeah, there's that. But within the organizations, some bigger organizations do have sustainability departments, and then
Mhm,
there are, the marketing people, then there's the public relations people, and then there is the
mhm.
C-suite. You never know which person in that, family of categories is going to be maybe the one person that has the interest in it is going to bring it to everybody else. So it's a
Mm,
bit of an unknown when you go into any single engagement with any company who that ultimate decision maker is going to be. Smaller companies are easier because it's definitely going to be a couple of the C-suite people. Bigger
right,
companies, it's all over the board.
right. And so, curious how do you target company? Do you just like cold call, or do you like boil down who might be the most apt to listen to your story at least? How do you prioritize?
It's a
How
mixture
you,
of things. You lose a lot of those kind of AI powered tools where you're connecting through people on LinkedIn, getting those kind of introductions, and then kind of steering those outsource work, making sure that you're targeting the right geographical areas, the right industries, the right titles, and then ourselves, just old fashioned sales.
right, right. Awesome. So let's see here. What visions do you have uh, for the alliance for Terra over the next, I don't know, 3 to 5 years? How much can I ask how many users you have on the in the program at the moment?
Well, that's hard to tell because we've got people, because we got both consumers and businesses that are part of our project. I mean,
Hmm.
we're constantly running through material through our programs, our mail-in programs. Um,
And so, how would you measure growth? What if and what? Well, uh, let me simplify the question. What are the goals for 25?
well, goals for 25, I would like to add, 20 like corporate sustainers. I think that's, that for us, that's doable.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and kind of have that be our, because right now we've got less than that. So that would more than double our sustainers, and that would kind of put us at good footing, um, to be able to start recruit, to make the recruitment process easier. We have worked with companies like Walmart. We got a couple of big names on the docket. It's just a matter of kind of beefing that up a little bit and getting more people to see it.
I see.
Because one thing we have found out, sustainability people are a bit of a herd mentality. Somebody sees something good, they're going to follow the leader. So if we get a couple of high position leaders in the industry to be backing us, and then we should be able to see growth come a lot easier in
Yeah.
2025.
Yeah. And so with that in mind, are you targeting some Walmart's pretty big, if
Yeah,
you close that, I could imagine that might start some dominoes falling.
yeah, we've had some conversations with Staples, had some conversations with the folks over at Home Depot and Lowe's. Lowe's most recently. Lowe's saw what we were doing with the crystallized program. I think got a little bit jealous. So maybe we'll have to end up playing one against the other here at the end of
Interesting.
the day. But you know, when we do stuff like that, typically it's not exclusive. So we're gonna if we do it with Walmart, we're gonna do it with whomever also.
Right.
Um, so yeah, there's a lot of opportunity out
Hmm.
there. Um, you know, kind of going forward, the temperature has changed in the country a little bit with the election. You know, so I think some of there's still momentum there, and people, individuals, we still, just because maybe there's not so much of a push from the top on it, ESG and the Paris Climate Accord and all that sort of thing.
Hmm.
We as consumers still want to make sure that the materials that we're buying are being made and being, sourced and being recycled in a sustainable manner.
Hmm.
So there's still consumer demand for, these organizations to get out there and do the right thing. So I don't see that that's going to be really a problem going into, this year and beyond. It's just going to be a little different in terms of how we message things.
Right. Well, the components of ESG are, what would I say? I mean, they're respectable, right? It's like any company, I think, uh, that any good solid company that has a lot of integrity would tend to naturally do the things that are comprised within, the concepts of ESG. But when it's kind of shoved down, and said, do this, it's like, there's this, rebellion
Yeah.
kind of thing,
It's not difficult to encourage people to do the right thing and to do the right thing when you can. It's a difference when then you start pointing the finger at somebody else when
Hmm.
it starts to become a problem. And I think, companies are, and then this next generation, my daughter, 14 years old, originally I was gonna, when I first had this concept, one of the things I didn't mention that made me think about doing this business was my daughter at the time. She's like 4 or 5 years old and had my wife's old iPhone 5S or 4S or whatever it was. That was her kind of like little toy phone. And she and the neighbor girl across the street were playing with it, fell over, landed face down, screen cracked.
Hmm.
And her job at the time still is to do the recycling in the house, to sort out, the paper and the plastic and all that. And she asked me, what do I do with this? That's the conversation that I had with Clarence, my partner, when we had lunch the second time. And I was originally looking at, creating just a nonprofit organization called Juliet's Hope about just doing something, focused around recycling to try to get people to try to encourage people to recycle more. And it
Hmm.
kind of morphed into Terra.
Yeah. Cool, man. And so 20 users next year. How about the 5-year plan? What's a 5-year dream or not dream? What are you targeting as 5-year goals?
Well, again, we operate in a lot of different areas. Um, we have programs for our members, we have programs for our ally people, we have programs for our sustainers. You know, this industry is extremely fragmented. And as I mentioned, most of these certified recyclers are small businesses. They're only 50, 60 people large. So, they've got to handle all of their own marketing, all their own sales, all their own, branding, all of their own, operational software. And everything that they do is all a one off. So, one of the things we are looking at, been looking at for the last couple of years and really want to push going forward with their certified folks is coming up with like a soft brand package. So you can come in and buy into, a compliance officer, an accounting package, a sales and marketing package, someone to manage your website, someone to help you with sales training on bringing new people in and how to teach them to cold call and how to prospect. I mean, all of those small businesses have to absorb all those costs, and that's just difficult. So if we
Hmm.
can consolidate that and kind of become the sales and marketing arm of our industry, that is an area that we're really excited about. And then that makes things easier for people then on the sustainer side to engage with us because now they've got a standard platform. Everything that comes into the network has got, is all on the same software package. So I know, hey, we just brought in 1,000 Chromebooks. The people in California know they just brought in 1,000 Chromebooks, and maybe they need that to satisfy an order for somebody that is asking for some reused devices. It's organizing that chaos and bringing some, kind of franchise type um, opportunities, which could help our members, expand their business and help them be more efficient. That's
Right.
kind of that from that. So that's like a whole initiative. Obviously we want to see all of as many Fortune 500 companies as possible that are in manufacturing devices or using devices themselves for their remote employees and physical employees and everything else to start becoming members of Terra. Um, and then ultimately is it's go beyond the evangelization and start bringing resources to places where they don't exist. Rural America has a really poor collection. If you're in Benton County, Tennessee, or my wife's hometown in Big Sandy, there's nowhere to bring your devices. And what ends up happening is they ending up in the landfill.
Mhm.
There's too much of that going on here at home, and then abroad, as I mentioned, a lot of this stuff gets still dumped on the shores of places like Africa. Maybe start building some recycling facilities overseas in areas of need that we can help start them to mitigate the issues that they have on their shores. So this is a problem that is just going to grow. As I mentioned, the Great Wall, an equivalent weight of the Great Wall of China was discarded last year. It's going to grow by 50% by 2030. The trajectory of this material is going through the roof, and it's going to be everywhere. I mean, we're going to be, we got the phones, but the wearable devices, the earbuds, they're implanting batteries and sensors in our clothing and our shoes. The amount of material that's being produced is now skyrocketing. The whole Internet of Things. And a lot of those things are tiny and smaller and have more plastics and less resale value and components that can be harvested for other materials. It's going to become harder to do, not easier, as the years go on. So we've got to build a capacity and an intelligence to be able to handle this wave of material that's coming, or we're all going to be swimming in this stuff in the next 25 years.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's uh, I don't know. Uh, I guess there are some people who are, pressing the alarm button, and waving the red flags about the climate change. And oh my gosh, there's such a political issue, but
Oh,
it's almost, you know what, dude, in my opinion, and maybe I don't know if I'm out on an island or not, but again, it goes back to any responsible company is going to do the right thing and, take care of whatever mess it is they're creating. And I don't know, I don't know, naturally motivated to do the right thing. I don't know if that's true or not. Of course, it's a lot harder
it's
to get away with stuff now than what it used to be like,
mhm.
Uh, so I don't know. I don't know if you have a thought
It's
on
just
that.
I think it's a matter of trying to make it simple, having the right tone. It's not this accusatory, we're
Right,
going to
exactly.
boycott, go insane. It's look, we as consumers have responsibilities, manufacturers have responsibilities, government has responsibilities. It isn't free. So, and in fact, e-waste is probably the most expensive waste stream to manage because of that logistics problem that, you
Mhm,
know,
exactly.
if you throw away a tuna
Right,
fish sandwich, you just throw it in the trash. It doesn't come with screws in it. You don't have to
right.
disassemble it and pull the guts out of it.
Yeah,
So, it's got to be done in a way that's reasonable to everybody, that's not going to break the bank, provide some economic incentive to the people that are doing it. Make sure that the people that are pulling the stuff apart are, treated properly, that they're safe when they're doing it. It's just all of us have to just do a little bit of a lift and we can get it done.
yeah,
It's not the sky is falling. It's just,
right,
hey, let's all work towards a system that's better.
right, right. I couldn't agree with you more. Well, Steve, it's been great chatting with you here, man, and I really appreciate you being on the podcast today. Let me ask one off, well, kind of out of sequence question. I always like to ask this as a ending question, and that's material that you rely on for inspiration, education, knowledge, or what have you. Just curious, if is there some source of information, or maybe a book that you read some time ago, or some author that you followed that you've gone back to repeatedly, or is there some book or author here recently that has provided inspiration to you?
Yeah, I've got something. So as I mentioned early on, I'm a bit of I'm a second generation ad man, and so my father's always been a big inspiration to me. But kind of the marketplace was changing when he retired in 1999 or 2000, whatever that was. And just about that time, this book came out, which is The Rise or the Fall of Advertising and the Rise of PR, by half of Trout and Reese, who did the book of the 22 Immutable Laws of Branding.
Mm-hmm.
So this has been real important to me over the last 20 years. This has guided me a lot, and just in the sense of how I think about things. You know, you think about a company like Coca-Cola. Are they a sales organization or a marketing organization? They're a marketing organization. They're
Mm-hmm.
talking, they're not out there beating the doors, and no one's cold calling, selling Coca-Cola. So, if you're a startup or a small business like we are, it's PR that gets it done. We were on television. I was on television in Memphis last Friday talking about our Devices for Autism program. And, out in the marketplace now, especially more than ever, it's just full of noise.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got two choices. You can either make some noise or not make any noise. And when you make some noise, you just have to get out there and tell everybody about it. So, when we do something, we blow it up, make it look bigger than life, tell everybody about it. Hey, this is where you can find it. This is what we were doing. We got more stuff like this coming down the pipeline. Get people excited that are the stakeholders as we start building our brand. And those kind of lessons are what I take out of that book is having been an advertising person, started the Tennessee Lottery here, 20 years ago. And that was a lot of, radio spots and billboards and television to get people, informed and excited about the new games that were coming up and all that sort of stuff. That was an advertising business. This and what I'm doing here is a PR business. And most people's businesses are that way. We don't have the multi-million-dollar advertising budgets. And if you don't, you got to look at PR strategies to get yourself noticed.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what? I heard, oh gosh, I wish I could remember his name. I was at a conference, but the tagline was, as it relates to today's market and today's PR, it's like consider yourself a social media company, right? That just so happens to do, in your case, recycling.
Yes.
But that's how you need to think about how you approach, PR in
Mm-hmm.
today's world.
I completely 100% agree with that statement.
Yeah, yeah, it's a different world these days. But again, Steve, I wish you the best of luck. And
Thank you, Craig. I appreciate this time, and yeah, and very much enjoyed our conversations.
yes, I did too, man. And we'll talk to you again
Let's stay in
soon. All right.
touch.
All right. Take care.